is a 2021 McLaren 720S, which is what replaced the McLaren 650S in 2018 and brought with it design cues from the McLaren P1 and improvements throughout. It makes more power than the 650S and produces more downforce too. But all you know is when you drive it, you can't help but smile and laugh. My name is Robin Warner, an experienced engineer and magazine editor, and I like to laugh. Oh man. I mean, yeah, the McLaren does have seat memory and a center console screen and a digital instrument cluster and nice leathers and plenty of the usual luxuries you look for in a car. But seriously, who cares? 710 horsepower. Let me say it again. 710 horsepower. That's the peak power from the twin turbocharged 4-liter V8. And that peak power comes at a screaming 7,500 RPM. Torque is a slightly less stratospheric 568 pound-feet, but you get it between 5,500 and 6,500 RPM, which is higher than the red line of many turbo motors. This one revs past 8,000 RPM. That power then goes through a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission and onto the rear wheels. The base price for the 2021 McLaren 720S is also stratospheric at $303,650, and my test car cost $343,190. For those that are interested, I included detailed specifications, including dimensions, fuel economy, and options in the description. All right, let's look around the car. All right, everybody, here it is. Just take a moment and soak it in. The 2021 McLaren 720S. Now, the 720S first came to the United States in 2018, and it was a replacement for the McLaren 650S, which was last sold here in 2016. And not that much has changed to the 720S since 2018, but that's also okay because this car is so good. Now, this particular model is not a McLaren Special Operations or MSO car, but it does have what they call an MSO defined paint, which they call ceramic gray, and that is a $9,400 option. Now, before we get into some of the details of this particular car, I do have some fun facts for you. When you compare this to the 650S, it has 15% more cooling capacity. The rear wing, back there, has 30% more downforce capability. Its dry weight is 40 pounds lighter, 2,828 pounds versus 2,868 pounds, and the unsprung mass is 35 pounds lighter. Moving to the front of the car, it is very slick, it is very purposeful, it is very clinical, it is very beautiful. It is a lot of those things all at once. The design of the front is inspired by the McLaren P1 mega hypercar that came out a few years ago. And so if you see some similarities between the 720S and the P1, that is intentional. Also, take a look at these headlamps. These are called static adaptive headlights. Okay, they're LED, and it's got 5 lights that are like the core headlights that are always on, but there is an additional 12 lights that turn on and off directionally based on the steering input of the car. So even though the headlights themselves don't move, what lights and what doesn't is a directional system. So they are bending lights of sorts, even though they don't turn or bend themselves. And of course, beneath that, you can see slots for intercoolers, things like that. Here's entry and here's exit right there. Moving on to the side, you notice this huge expansive windshield. And what's clever about this windshield is how low the glass goes. It just goes down, 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 down. And that really allows excellent visibility, and I'll show you more of that soon. Love the carbon fiber side view mirror covers, and also these very slim A-pillars. And that gets into the structure of the 720S, and I'll talk about that more in just a moment. Moving to the wheels, these are 10-spoke lightweight forged aluminum wheels. The standard wheels on the McLaren are a forged aluminum alloy, but these are lightweight 10-spoke optional wheels, and they are $3,850 options. But It also has what McLaren calls a stealth finish on them, and that adds another $1,420 to the price. Inside those wheels you can see very large brake discs and equally large brake calipers, and look at that, they say McLaren on them. But when you look at this car in profile, one of the most striking things really has to be the doors, and that's because there's a lot going on within the doors. They are called double-skinned dihedral doors, and built into them are multiple vents. So first of all, you have a vent here, right here, that exits the lower part of the front wheel well that allows high pressure from building up under here. That's not a downforce as much as a up force mitigation, right? And that's really good there to avoid a higher pressure zone in the front wheel well. So you have that going right there, and then that exits coming out of here. But if you follow the A-pillar down, there is another side scoop built into the back of the door here, and that feeds additional intercoolers right here that are just ahead of the engine. And as you can see, the doors open into the roof. It kind of looks like this car has T-tops at first. They are not T-tops. I'm going to show you the doors open in just a minute. And then you have nice expansive glass. Vision out of the rear isn't expansive on its own, you could say, but it's perfectly adequate. And the other thing, if we just take a step back, you can just see how far back and pushed to the corners the wheels themselves are. The front axle has a little bit of space between the center and the very front bumper, but the rear is pushed right up against the edge of the bodywork. And those are 20-inch wheels in back, 19s in front, by the way. Moving to the back, obviously, of course, the big thing to talk about is the twin turbocharged 4-liter V8 engine. It makes 69 more horsepower and 68 more pound-feet of torque than the 650S did. And also, one thing to point out, this engine will rev to 8,100 RPM in first and second gear and 8,200 RPM in third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. The other obvious and beautiful feature of this car are the high twin exhaust outputs. This is a proper dual exhaust. This is a very short exhaust system because the engine is right here. And even though you have visibility of it right underneath the cowl, it's actually tucked very low. So you have very good center of gravity height, despite also having such good visibility of it. The back of this car just kind of extends and extends and extends. And everything you see here, there's nothing that's here for the image. That is a real diffuser back here. This is functional aero back here. And it's so cool to see. And of course, this is the wing that pops up in a few different positions to give you added stability, added downforce, or indeed function as an air brake. Overall, I mean, let's just say it, this car is gorgeous. It's just really beautiful. Anyway, I want to show it to you with everything opened up now. Okay, so you do get a little bit of trunk space, in front cargo space, whatever you want to call it. It goes right there. You can fit a couple carry-on bags in there easily enough. And you do get an emergency triangle and little things like that. They are not free, but you do get them. And now you can get a sense of how these doors open up. Not T-tops, right? But when the doors open, they expose the frame of this car. And the frame of this car is built from carbon fiber. And it's easy to tell that it's carbon fiber because it is right there and exposed and raw and gorgeous. And it comes up in front right there. There's some more of it right there. I absolutely love just how raw and exposed this is. McLaren calls it the monocage 2, and this forms the innate structure of the car that everything is built around. So the frame is carbon fiber. There are subframes attached to it on the front and the back, which hold up the powertrain and the suspension, and those are made from aluminum. And the bodywork itself is either composite, a little bit of carbon fiber, or aluminum. But there's definitely more to show you inside. And I'm actually going to start with the doors open because this is a funny thing to say. These super special opening scissor doors are actually also soft close. So how do you get in this car? You see a bunch of scoops and flaps, but you don't see any door handles. Well, peer down here, there's a little button right here and it's solenoid driven. Push that and it comes right up. Now, if you happen to be in the car and it runs out of battery, there are these flaps right here, which will open the door manually. Also, with the car open, you can see that there's a special switch down here to help if the car needs to be towed. And with the car open, you can also see that it is a McLaren, because it tells you right there, and that it is a 720S built in Surrey, England, because it tells you right there. Now, you've got a couple of additional switches right here. There's the front cargo area, locking the doors, that kind of stuff. Down here, it's an electric parking brake. Here are the headlights, wheel adjust. Now let's talk about the steering wheel a little bit, because I absolutely love this steering wheel. First of all, obviously carbon fiber and leather, but also it is a wheel. It has leather on it. It has flaps for the dual clutch transmission, and it has a horn, and it has absolutely nothing else. This wheel is here for steering and shifting and nothing else. All the other controls are with stocks, with buttons, or with this system over here, which I'm going to tell you more about in a moment. This is purity right here. This is driver enthusiast purity, okay? You want a steering wheel to steer. You want a nice thick rim to hold on to. You want lightweight, good feel, and you want nothing else. And for a car this special, this focused on driving, this is the obvious and best way to do it. Moving on to the seats, of course they are wonderful. They are supportive. You've got nice shoulder support here, upper bolsters here, lower bolsters down here. You do have adjustable lumbar support, and it is electronically moving. The controls are down here in this corner right there, and it's a perfectly comfortable place to be. You wouldn't want to, but you could comfortably soak up a lot of miles in these chairs. All right, let's get inside. Welcome to the cockpit of the McLaren 720S. This is a very special place to be. It is shocking how low to the ground you are in this car, and it's equally shocking and beautiful to see that exposed carbon fiber run along the inside of the A-pillar here. Now, we have to take a moment of silence and start this thing up. To start it, it's no different than any other car, except for one fact. You have to push on the brake pretty firmly. A light hold of the brake doesn't do it. And when you push on the brake, you'll notice that a screen just exposed itself. It's a fully digital instrument cluster, but there's different settings for that, and I'll show you a little bit more of that in a second. Push button start down here. Now that's a sound. Now, you do not have park in this car per se, but if you turn the engine off, it will automatically put it in neutral and apply the parking brake. And I want to show you the powertrain and handling adjustment on this car. You've got different adjustments handled with these two dials right here. H is for handling, P is for powertrain. And first of all, you turn it on with this active button right here. This turns on the active suspension system, and that is McLaren's Proactive Chassis Control 2. McLaren has dampers in this car, shock absorbers, that are connected to each other so that they can have a really effective amount of body control without any anti-roll bars, but also a lot of flexibility with how the car handles in terms of ride. So it's not just handling, it's also ride. And you have 3 settings for each trim. So you have comfort, sport, and track, okay? And then for the powertrain, same thing, comfort, sport, and track. And those things affect all the things you'd expect it to, you know, damper stiffness, how much body control you get up top, and then also down here, the throttle map, what gears the transmission selects, those kinds of things. Of course, you can keep it in manual and just use the paddles plus, minus here, and do it that way, or let the computer handle it. And I have to tell you, the computer does a really good job. Okay, first thing I need to do here is turn the active setup on. So now it's on, and it says handling, powertrain, comfort, comfort, all right? If I move handling or powertrain to sport, we get an adjustment in this screen right here. So that's handling and sport, and you can see now it shows me tire pressure gauges right here. We're not moving, so it doesn't have numbers, but that changes a little bit. And then I'll move the powertrain to sport. So now you can see H, HP, Handling, Powertrain are now both in Sport. If I move either one of them into track, the screen drops down and you get this slim screen. And the idea is this is if you're on a track, they want you to just have the minimum information you need. Engine RPM, gear, speed. Simple as that. And then you do have these two screens down here for little bits of additional information. Now, it happens if I put Handling in track or Powertrain in track, either one will move it to that position. Putting it back in Sport just so you can see this. Now, there was another button up here, Aero. Pushing this button gives you more downforce in the rear by moving the wing up, and I'll show you that on the screen right now. And it'll move all the way up when you're heavy on the brakes, and I'll show you that later. Also, you have ESC Sport and off, that handles here. If you do have it in Sport or off, you have variable drift control, and that allows you to kind of almost dial in how much rear slip, how much yaw you get in the car before the electronic stability control system kind of woes things up. So it gives you the ability to drift and yet still have a bit of protection in those modes. So the stability control there is still there to help you, but you can tell it, hey, I'm doing this on purpose, let the rear end come out, which is pretty slick that you can do that. The screen you're looking at right here is 8 inches long. It is vertically mounted. It basically looks like a small tablet or a super big cell phone, right? And you do have pretty typical controls down here, HVAC, music, that kind of stuff. And honestly, it's a perfectly comfortable place to be. I really love the materials and the leathers and all these things. Oh, and by the way, I didn't say so earlier here. This opens the front, this locks. This is a way to manually adjust the instrument cluster. So if I press this button, no matter what these systems are set up in, this will put it down in the slim mode where you just get those minimal settings, or bring it back up to give you more of the full information. Also, if you find yourself in a place where you need just a little bit more ride height, this button right here lifts the front end up hydraulically. But of course, all of that is superfluous to what this car's like to drive, and I'm desperate to show you. So let's go for a drive. Hi everybody. Well, it's almost hard to say it without smiling and laughing. I am driving a 2021 McLaren 720S. Under my right foot is a throttle that controls as much as 710 horsepower. I am driving the replacement, the upgrade to the McLaren 650S, which was already a mega super sports car, and this is mega-er, I guess. So it's not a bad day. Now, obviously, this is not going to be your typical car review. I'm not going to point out luggage space and fuel economy and those types of things. This does have luggage space, and it does achieve fuel economy. I believe it's 22 miles per gallon on the highway, 15 in the city, but I'll have to double check that. I guess I am telling you. None of that matters. What matters here is driving this car and what this car feels like to drive. Something like this is the epitome of driver enthusiast car. That is the whole point of this thing, to give the driver immense satisfaction behind the wheel. And my God, does this McLaren deliver. And ironically enough, that actually starts with the windshield, because I have excellent visibility coming out of this McLaren. Now, obviously the windshield's high enough I can see into the horizon, that's no problem at all. But because the glass goes so far down low and I have such a low cowl, that gives me the ability to really get a good sense of where the nose of the car is, where the front of the car is, which is really nice. Because this is a mid-engine car and so much of it is behind me, it's really nice to have a low windshield to get a really good sense of where the front end is, because its front end's also pretty close. But right, I know, yada yada yada, good visibility, the power, and oh my God, the power. So I'm putting the powertrain in sport, and I'm just gonna do a quick flip of the throttle, and Oh my God. It takes so little to go so fast. The acceleration is so immediate and not overwhelming, but just powerful and just satisfying at every level. Even at those lower RPMs, the pull, the torque of this thing just takes you right along, and just you go and go and go. That was third gear. That was not even winding it out that much, and the acceleration was fantastic. 4.4 pounds per horsepower. Only 4.4 pounds for every horsepower in this car, because according to McLaren, the 720S only weighs 3,128 pounds. Wow. Just wow. And this 7-speed dual clutch transmission is very purposeful. Yes, a manual would be super satisfying to click through gears on your own, but as transmissions go, immensely satisfying. But obviously, one little run in third gear isn't enough to show you what this car is about. I have to show you what this car can do using launch control, and I did that in my super special secret place to do that. So let me cut to that video right now and show you. Coming to a stop. Got it in handling and powertrain and sport. Just turned on the launch button, awaiting full throttle. Boost building, boost ready. Oh, oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. That didn't take long. That did not take long, and that felt amazing. Like just, you're just getting sucked into the back of this car with so much pressure. Oh man, that is, now that is a party trick. You want to impress your friends? That is a party trick. 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. I believe it. Oh, I definitely believe it. I mean, I have to laugh just thinking about it. I could do that over and over and over again. It is so much fun, so fast, and just so joyous to just feel that acceleration, that powerful acceleration, pull and pull and pull. And you know what? You can do it over and over again in this car. This dual clutch transmission has no trouble with repeated launch control. It just behaves without any trouble. And obviously the engine has no trouble, and there's plenty of cooling that goes to the car. Oil temperature, water temperature, none of those things really went up much when I did it multiple times. This car can handle what it's capable of, and it is capable of so much. And it's not just accelerating. These brakes, these air-braked, facilitated brakes, my God. I did a quick video of that as well. Let me show you that. I'm showing 62 miles an hour, and I'm going slightly downhill. Full brakes. Oh my God. Oh, jeez. Right? It's not just your back getting thrust into the seat. It is definitely your chest getting thrust into the seat belt. My God, the stopping power. I would bet that it peaks at around, or maybe even slightly higher than 1.5 Gs. With that air brake helping you out, and you have real downforce in this thing, you have genuine, legit, like race car almost levels of stopping power in this thing. But of course, this isn't a drag race car. You can do a lot more than go quickly in a straight line, although you can go really quickly in a straight line. There's also excellent handling in this car, but also a pretty darn decent ride. It's surprisingly comfortable in here. I showed you the comfortable seats. They have lots of support, and they have a good amount of adjustment down here in the corner, but there's a couple of really inherent fundamental things about this car that help. So first of all, I talked about that proactive chassis control, which does not have any anti-roll bars because the shock absorbers are hydraulically connected. That means you don't have any anti-roll bars to hurt individual wheel control to absorb bumps and those types of things. So that really helps for ride. Secondly, this is a mid-engine car, which means you're ahead of the engine, which means your butt is basically at the center of gravity in this car when we're talking front to rear chassis balance. That means that most all the suspension parts move around you, not moving you yourself. So the chassis moves about like this while the center of it kind of stays in the middle. So the car can take bumps pretty aggressively and you don't even feel it that much. And because it's such an advanced chassis that absorbs things so well, it's remarkably comfortable. But of course, put this thing in sport or definitely in track, things firm way, way up, and you have supreme body control. This thing stays very flat when hustling into corners. And much more than that, the steering feel in this McLaren is so good. This has what's called an electro-hydraulic steering assist system. That means that electric motor still spins a hydraulic pump to give you much closer to old school steering feel that we used to have before electric powering assist was a big thing, right? And that means you don't have like the self-steer, driver assist, lane keep, blah, 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 all those kinds of things. But who would ever want that in a McLaren? You want to feel as much as possible and you want to drive this thing. You want to be in control. And because the system is just that little bit more old school, you have much better steering feel as a result. And this handling adjust system doesn't affect the steering. So whether you're in comfort, sport, or track, the steering assist is the same. But you'll still feel a difference in the steering because the dampers are so much stiffer and you feel that effects through the wheel because you have good steering feel. And when you combine phenomenal steering with a mid-engine car that weighs so little and you have so much power, you just have an amazing next level driving experience. The kind of experience that's worth driving a couple hours just to get to some good roads, just to experience those roads. Everything in this car is taken up another level. Everything in this car is that much more enjoyable from a pure driving point of view. This is such a joy to drive and one of the most capable, incredible supercars on the planet today. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching. And if you are still watching, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe to my channel. Those types of things really help me out a lot. All right, goodbye.